Cape Cod Broadcasting weaves the listening environments of 99.9 WQRC, Ocean 104.7, WFCC Classical 107.5, Cape Country 104, and CapeCon.com's website experience to reflect the lifestyles of the people who live, work, and play on Cape Cod. We hope that you enjoy this podcast.
And welcome into the Sunday Journal. I'm your host, Matt Pitta. Thanks for being with us today. We get together each week to talk about issues facing Cape Cod, the islands, and all of southeastern Mass. Welcome into our program here on this Labor Day weekend. As the Cape transitions from the frantic pace of July and August, local businesses are preparing for the so-called shoulder season of tourism. Kids are back in school, more couples, tour buses. They're all filling up the Cape these days. And as we do each year, we traditionally get together with Wendy Northcross, the CEO of the Cape Cod Chamber of Commerce, to get kind of an instant snapshot of what the past 2-3 months have been here on the Cape and what's coming up in the shoulder seasons and what we could look forward to heading into next year as well. Hey, Wendy, it's always good to see you.
Hey, Matt, good to see you.
How's your summer been so far?
It's been a busy summer. It's been a beautiful weather really summer, but very busy. How about you?
I feel like I haven't done enough summer-wise.
Yeah.
But somebody said to me, I was talking with somebody doing an interview the other day, and they said, well, so I hope you had a great summer. I said, whoa. I said,
it's not over.
My summer goes, honestly, until the end of September, because
that's right.
Meteorologically, what is it, the 23rd of September, whatever day, the autumnal equinox comes in. But until then, honestly, it's still summer for me down here. And honestly, for a lot of us, because those of us who are kind of, caught up in the, as I said, the frantic pace of June, July, and August. September gives us a chance, hopefully, to enjoy what everyone else has been doing over the past couple of months, down here on the Cape.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, it just also points out the different kinds of travel and tourism that we have on the Cape, and that every visitor is the same.
Right. So what we like to do this time of year, of course, Wendy, you and I have been having these conversations for many years now, is to try to take as much as we can, kind of an instant snapshot of what June, July, and August have been like on this Labor Day weekend, and look forward to what's happening, as we said, into the shoulder season. And I know that a lot of folks make a lot of money in September. It's a very important month for them. So we'll talk about that kind of specifically. But what's kind of the instant snapshot?
Well, the instant snapshot is that it's been a very strong season. Right at the moment, the data that we collect and measure, so that I can come back to you and say, here are the exact numbers, Matt. That data will come to us after September. Usually the first part of October, we're getting those hard rooms tax numbers. We're getting those hard occupancy and how much the rooms were, charging. We'll get bridge data. We'll get data from the National Seashore on how many visitors they had. We'll get our own survey information from our lodging establishments. But, to wrap it all up in one big ball of wax, it was good. It was strong.
Mm-hmm. Now, obviously, you've been looking to have this be a continuation of the last couple of years. 08, 09, that was kind of that's when the bottom falls out, right?
It was 09 was the hard year.
Right. So things, I seem to remember now, by the summer of 08, we started to see the stock market just completely have these, in panic attacks, and then we had to crash throughout that fall, if I remember correctly.
Mm-hmm.
So then
September of 08.
Right.
Yeah.
So then obviously 09 became just a pretty difficult year for a lot of folks,
right,
but especially when it came to tourism.
Right, absolutely.
So you had to claw out of that. So would you say at this point that, I'm trying to do my math at the top of my head, but over the last 6 years or so, since 09, are we still clawing back? Are we back yet? I know it may be hard to know, but where are we?
Yeah, no. Actually, the country has been in 7 years of expansion, which is actually a long time. I mean, I think that's why we just finally have seen the stock market corrections last week, 1,000-point drop on a Monday, and then the wild fluctuations throughout the week. That was not unanticipated. That has been projected by economists and financial advisors for a while now. I guess the good news for us is that happened in August, and people have already made their plans and are already here on the Cape and traveling. But if you look at the global economy and if you look at the national economy, we are reflective of the fact that the travel and tourism sector is one of the strongest sectors of the economy. It's number 1 in the world. It's number 4 in the United States. And of course, here on Cape Cod, it ranks right up there. We have other economic sectors like healthcare as a cluster actually generates as much or more direct spending. But for travel and tourism, as is our export business, it's very healthy and it's very strong. And another thing that we saw from that too is that in the travel and tourism sector, those businesses that rely on the traveling public, they were hiring up. They were hiring more than they have in several years, and they were paying more wages than they have prior. So that's kind of the good news too, because there's more people in the workforce, there's more people making money, and guess what? They can spend that money too. So it's all been good for Massachusetts. Massachusetts economy is actually expanding, and travel and tourism is one of those reasons.
You know, you mentioned that healthcare is obviously a big driver here in our economy, but I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, even within the healthcare economy, a pretty significant portion of that is actually tourism-based, because Cape Cod Falmouth Hospital, their business goes through the roof, you know, for good or bad. You know, people coming, sunburns, you know, they get injured.
They don't have, their doctor's not here, so they present at the ER.
Right, so their business is going up as a direct relation of tourism. So, you know, tourism does have its tentacles in pretty much almost every part of any business here on the Cape. So when you take a look at the overall economy, you said things were up. It was a strong season, and I like to try to take a look at them individually. You've got retail, you've got museums, things like that. You've got the retail sector, restaurants. Some years I've heard you folks say that one segment is stronger or weaker than the other. So let's take them kind of piece by piece. What have you been seeing out there?
Well, actually, if you look at the types of lodging that we have, we know that occupancy rates have been hefty. We know that the rates that they can charge for a room have gone up. And we just got that data for July from the state a week or two ago. But we also know from our members that midweek has been soft. They'll be sold out on weekends, but, you know, Tuesday, Wednesday, very, very soft. Lots of openings there. That's following a national trend, and we think some of that business that is historically has stayed in hotels and inns are now, they're renting a home. So, and that's multiple generations renting one home for an entire week, 5 to 7 days. The average length of stay in a hotel motel is under 3 days. The average length of stay in a single-family home that's rented is 5 days, 5 to 7 days. So we think that that's probably where some of that shifting is going on. Certainly it's reflected in that changeover weekend travel that you see, everyone's trying to get over the bridge at the same time on a Saturday morning. They got to go because the cottage keys are turned in. Exactly. And on Sunday, the next round of visitors is showing up. In terms of retail, we have heard that it's been a pretty good year. Restaurants having a phenomenal year. People have been desperate to find enough workers, which is always a sign. And I think if there was any criticism, is that it maybe wasn't quite hot enough to drive that last-minute decision maker to come over the bridge. Because the day trips, that's another aspect of spending that's a little bit harder to measure, but they end up in the restaurants and in retail. Right.
I was talking with a restaurant owner just the other day about the kind of transitioning, if you will, into September, and asking that person how their business had been, and said it was good. And then we got into a conversation about some other locations that will actually be shutting down around Labor Day. There are some very seasonal restaurants that do shut down, and I said, geez, I wish this place or that place would stay open because I have a chance now maybe to go out to them.
Sure.
And the person said, you know what, Matt, honestly, the issue is this, I bet you, I know some of those places really would like to stay open because they could make a nice buck in September, but they just don't have bodies to work, so they really can't stay open. So what do we do about that? I mean, is there any is that just the way it is in a seasonal economy, Wendy? I mean, there's really no real solution, right?
Well, the solution has been for decades that employers have become savvy on how to attract that seasonal worker, whether it's providing housing for the domestic college-bound student that just needs a place to stay and they're happy to work, or bringing in temporary seasonal labor from other countries through the H-2B program. We know that the J-1 program, which is college kids from other countries coming here for cultural exchange, they have been a really popular pool of workers. But even with that said, with all of those programs combined, there's still there's more demand than we can fill. I think you'll see the Cape Cod Chamber in the coming weeks establish a workforce development task force to try to look at some things that we can do. We know housing is an issue. We know that we have to have more rental housing. And so some things that we've been working on there, we hope to bring forward this fall, including changing the bylaws in each town to allow more accessory housing. that's already in existence, but let's legalize it and make it available, especially during the summertime, to some people.
I've heard that debate for so long, Wendy. And,
I know.
You know, and I really sometimes have expressed my frustration to the degree that I can with towns where you go and we cover these meetings and the towns say, we know we need a more affordable housing, we support, but yet the actions never come through necessarily when it comes to either easing or changing zoning regulations when it comes to top of the shop housing, things like that. And I think there needs to be more of that.
Well, I think we're at a tipping point, though, Matt.
So?
I think that we have felt significant pain, and we're looking at census figures that show yet again more out-migration of younger people. So there's some major employers that have been working rather quietly behind the scenes to look at some interesting ways to attack the problem. And then we've been working through the Cape Cod Commission. Really, we've drafted the model bylaw that we will now present to some of the larger towns who we've already had some interesting conversations with to say, can we get this passed? And maybe not all 15 towns do that in the first blush, but if we can get some of the major towns to agree to it and immediately increase the amount of stock, which would also help younger families maybe stay here. I know a neighbor of mine just sold her single-family home with an accessory apartment off the back. She's now living in the accessory apartment while the family lives in the bigger house. It gives an opportunity to younger families to own homes because they've got extra income coming in maybe. So there's a whole host of reasons that we now need to take a look at this and do it in a different way. But I do believe you're right. There's consideration of something until the pain gets so terrible that you have to do something. And I think we're in a position now where we say, hey, we've got to make some changes, especially in the housing.
Sometimes I worry that once you get to that tipping point, you get to that amount of pain that's too much. That sometimes it's too far gone to try to pull it back. So hopefully, everyone can get on the same page.
Yeah,
when it comes to the zoning regulators.
When it comes to zoning, I think that the Cape is still a very desirable place, and I think we can do some of these things don't cost money.
That's the thing.
That's the thing. Yeah. This does not cost money. This is political will.
That's the thing. We're so desirable that we need to find a way.
That's right.
Wendy Northcross is with me today on the Sunday Journal as we talk about Labor Day tourism, kind of a snapshot of what's been happening over the past 3 months. And we want to take a few moments here as well to look at what's coming up over the next couple of months. So just to quickly recap, Wendy, then, you said it's been a strong season, overall so far, pretty good, and across the board, if you will, for all of our sectors in terms of retail, lodging, restaurants, et cetera, been pretty good for the most part. No real weakness.
Well, other than the weakness midweek
as you said, yeah.
Hotels and inns, and which is concerning because those generate some significant tax revenues for the towns.
It's interesting because we're working on a piece. We've been talking to a lot of hotel operators, and we're going to be doing a piece on CapeCod.com soon about this Airbnb concept that's just exploding among a lot of folks.
Globally.
Yeah, it really is. And some folks aren't familiar with it yet, but I think it's making a lot of inroads right now. And briefly for the listener, if you're not familiar with this, it's basically you go online to Airbnb and you basically lease out your house on your own. No middleman, no rental company, and no hotel tax fees, no occupancy fees like that. So a lot of states are taking a look at it, and we know it's been pretty popular. We went online and found a lot of people on the Cape that are renting their homes on Airbnb. So,
and what that's done also is added to the supply. So your supply and demand are affected by all this new lodging coming online without building a single new thing.
Right.
So that changes the equation there. But it is interesting to see, and there was a lot of talk about this last week at the U.S. Travel Association conference. Paris has finally come to an agreement with Airbnb that Airbnb will, in fact, collect the rooms tax. I think New York City, some of the other, San Francisco, some of these major metropolitan areas that have seen a significant shift because their lodging is very expensive. And younger people especially, are preferring to take the gamble, like, I don't know, I'm going to stay in this guy's extra bedroom and I'd rather pay $50 to do that in New York City than $500 at the hotel in New York City. So it's not for everyone, but it is. They said by the end of this year, Airbnb will be the largest hotelier in the world, and they will not own one piece of brick or mortar.
That is unbelievable. The largest hotelier in the world. I'm not ready for it yet. I'm still staying in hotels at this point. So.
Well, there is that the state of Massachusetts has a bill that has been filed by a Boston rep suggesting that people that are going to offer their places for accommodations through Airbnb be registered with the local board of health. And I think that at some point people will have to recognize, wow, is there insurance? Right. Is there, cleanliness code here? I'm taking a huge risk.
Definitely.
So far, people are taking the risk and they're finding it worth it. But I don't see it going away. I think it's indicative of disruptive technology, just the way Uber is and the HomeAways of the world. It's changed the system.
Wendy, we have just these segments always fly by, so we have just a couple minutes left. Let's fly through what's coming up for the fall from the Chamber in terms of what you're promoting.
Sure. So the fall is a tremendous time. September is probably the second most productive month that we have. We're working, we're going to extend our Cape Cod Has It campaign. This summer we showed a very active traveler destination. We wanted to show people on kite surfers and zip lines and doing really active adventure things. We're going to kind of continue that into the fall, and we'll also talk about the arts on the Cape. So there'll be a lot of, as you know, there's like a million festivals and events. Not so much on Labor Day because everyone just sort of takes that deep breath and takes, that day off. Lots of activity promoting that. Cape Cod's nearby. We have a lot going on, and this is the best weather to do it in.
It really is, and you're still going to see a lot of activity over the next couple of weeks, and then
certainly through Columbus Day.
Yeah,
Columbus Day is the new Labor Day.
That's right. You said that I know you've told me in years past that September is really, hopefully, kind of the month when people are able to put some money away. They basically are paying the bills July and August, and September is the gravy for them. So
you got it.
All right, Wendy, have you done anything fun yourself this summer? I know you were traveling for business.
Yeah, I did, and this is what happens. I tagged a few days onto a business trip and got to explore the Columbia River Gorge. And it's it's very impressive what they've done out there in terms of their hiking trails and their bicycle trails and their conservation and preservation. And they're just huge swaths of Oregon that will never be developed. And it's an immediate attraction. People love to go see that pure wilderness. It's pretty impressive.
Sounds good. Well, Wendy, have a great rest of the summer because there's still a few weeks left of summer officially, and a lot of great weather still ahead here on Cape Cod. Thanks for being with us today. We're always good to see you. And thank you for being with us today on this segment of the Sunday Journal. I'm your host, Matt Pitta.
This podcast is a presentation of Cape Cod Broadcasting, which is solely responsible for its content. Thank you for listening. For more information, please visit us at capecodbroadcasting.com.